3 new housing ministers, 2 new how to rent guides, and an overwhelming lack of supply. Here's a quick look back at the lettings market in 2023. On a national level, it was a typically turbulent year in lettings. Yes, we had 3 housing ministers over the course of 2023, all of which put the brakes on the progress of the much anticipated Renters Reform Bill, which finally arrived in Parliament in May of 2023 for its first reading. Now, the contents of the Renters Reform Bill has been much discussed, so I won't dwell on it very much here, but suffice to say, if you'd like to discuss what you can expect from these reforms, please do get in touch with me. But with the second reading not arriving until November, it's safe to say that progress has been slow and we're still a fair way off these reforms becoming law. That is expected to happen, perhaps not until late in 2024. 2 new how to rent guides. This key document was updated twice in 2023. Why am I mentioning this and referring to it as a key document? Well, landlords, you have to be certain you're serving the correct version at the start of your tenancy. Failure to do so can have catastrophic consequences. So the fact that it was updated twice in 2023 means you really have to be on the ball and make sure you're using the right version. In September, Rishi Sunak confirmed that he was abolishing the much talked about EPC Band C targets that were aimed at landlords. This had caused much discussion over previous years, and a great many landlords had actually gone to a lot of expense in trying to hit these targets early. Well, now the Band E minimum rating remains in place, and the anticipated Band C changes are not going to come in within the foreseeable future. And we're not yet done with changes to lettings legislation, because in November of 2023, Trading Standards released their updated guidance on material information. Now, what is this and what do you need to know about it? Material information are the precise details that must be included on the marketing particulars when you advertise a property for rent. And we must ensure that any prospective tenants have been given these precise pieces of information. Well, in November, Trading Standards released a fairly lengthy list of the exact items that they expect to be included on any property advert. So as a landlord or an agent, you have to ensure that you're including these pieces of information. Otherwise, it could come back to bite you at a later date. Let's move on now and have a closer look at the rental market locally here in Bath. In 2023, it took on average 17 days to let a property. That's from placing the property on the market to the landlord accepting an offer from a tenant. By way of comparison, in 2022, the average was 10 days. So in 2023, it took slightly longer to find a new tenant. But just to put that into some context, if we were to go back a few years pre-COVID, the expectations that we would always give a landlord client would be that it would take between 4 and 6 weeks to let their property. So the fact that we're now 10 to 17 days to find a new tenant just shows you the incredible demand that there is for rental properties at the moment. And to give you a more in-depth idea of just how long it might take to let your property, well, it also depends on the time of year that it comes to the market. Let's have a look at one of my favourite charts here. You can see throughout the year the ebb and flow of the average letting time. And one thing that was quite traditional about 2023 was that the peak months when it was quickest to let a property were during the summer months. And as you can see, as we get into winter, it takes slightly longer. So that's something to bear in mind next year. If you're bringing a property to the rental market, it does benefit you if you can align it with the peak summer months. Well, one thing which, no surprise, hasn't changed since 2022 is the average rent that we're achieving on properties, which is 100% of the advertised rent. Now, this demonstrates again the sheer demand for rental properties. Negotiation on rent really is a thing of the past unless you are overpricing the properties, and that in itself is an important factor. The importance of getting an accurate market appraisal of your property is paramount because firstly, it will mean if you've overpriced your property that it will take longer to find a new tenant as that negotiation kicks in. Price your property accurately and realistically and you'll find a tenant in extra quick time at full asking price. How much have rents increased in Bath in 2023? Well, on average, when a property has returned to the market for reletting, we've been achieving a 7.5% increase compared to the last rent. Now, comparing that to 2022, that figure was at 10.4%. So you might view that as a slight drop-off, but these are still historically incredibly high figures. And the fact that rents have increased 7.5% following a year in which they've increased by more than 10% shows you the astonishing rate of growth in rents locally. And that again is tied to the levels of tenant demand versus the inadequate supply of property to the market. So what does a property rent for in 2023? Well, here are the average rents achieved across every single property that we let throughout the year. Quick disclaimer, these are average rents. There are a lot of variables: the quality of the property, the time of year that it comes to the market, whether you'll accept pets, is there parking. But just to give you an idea of what your property might achieve were it to come to the market now, here's what we're looking at. For studios, it's at £832 a month. For one-bedroom apartments, throughout the whole year, we achieved on average £1,105 a month. There was a time a couple of years ago when we would tell a landlord it was impossible to achieve a rent of over £1,000 a month for a one-bed. Well, the average rent is now greater than £1,100 a month. Two-bedroom apartments, this is a little bit like the generation game, isn't it? It's going to be higher. Two-bedroom apartments, £1,524 a month. And three-bedroom apartments, now here again, you get a slight discrepancy because some of these three beds will be three-bedroom flats, some of them will be three-bedroom houses, but the average for those combined is £2,002 a month. Up to four beds, and we're looking at £2,785 a month, and five beds, which granted for us wasn't a huge sample size over the course of 2023, but bearing that in mind, the average we were achieving for those five beds was £4,660 a month. So quite interesting there to see the kinds of rents that a decent property should achieve in Bath at the end of 2023. Thank you for joining me. All that's left to say is to wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and I look forward to seeing you more in 2024. Bye-bye.